joining us in 15 minutes. I don't care if you only have 15 minutes to your day, make it to 3:15 so you can see this guest. It's going to be amazing. He's one of my favorite clients, and I've had a major impact on his life, and he is now so big into the fasting side of things, 3-day water fast, 7-day water fast. So I want him to tell you about his experience. You're all going to know who this guest is. So for today, we're on day 2. I was actually a little bit slow this morning. I don't know how many of you guys were slow this morning. I had an amazing burst of energy last night. Remember yesterday, if you're doing the challenge and you're following the protocol, yesterday you had black coffee, you maybe had some acid kicker in your coffee. You had as much water as you wanted with a little bit of the Baja Gold sea salt. You're drinking spring water from glass bottle, Mountain Valley, or any other type of spring water, Penna. Just make sure that preferably that it comes from a glass bottle. You took the perfect aminos yesterday. You also had bone broth at noon, bone broth at 6 p.m. Those are fine. But today, we're in it to win it. So if you're not working out, you can skip the perfect amino in the morning and just switch to water. So today, we're not doing our supplements. We're going to take a break from our supplements. We're not going to take a break from our medications. We're going to do water. There's no bone broth. We're going to do the mineral salts. If you don't have the Baja Golden, Celtic salt is fine. If you don't have Celtic salt, pink Himalayan sea salt is fine. My preference is the Baja Gold. You could also use the acid kicker in your coffee if you had black coffee this morning. And yes, you can take perfect aminos in the morning if you're working out, because that will not break a fast. But I also kind of want to starve the body for amino acids, because what's happening in your immune system right now, if you're joining us, and this is day 2, and it's 3:00 Eastern time, and you're joining us, and you've been steadfast about this water challenge, and guys, we're more than halfway through. We are more than halfway through. We got to make it to bed tonight. We got to make it to bedtime tomorrow night. And then I'll talk about breaking the fast. But we're more than halfway through now. So if you've been steadfast about this water challenge, what's happening is, as you went to sleep last night, your body began to shift into a state of ketosis. You woke up this morning in a ketogenic state. A ketogenic state is one of the most low inflammatory states in the human body. Ketosis is where the body switches its fuel source from carbohydrate sources to something called beta hydroxybutyrate, which is a fat source. Remember, every human being, every single person on this podcast right now, this simulcast right now, you entered this world on a ketogenic diet. Do you know that the first 48 hours of mother's milk, the colostrum from women's breasts, the first 48 hours is extraordinarily high in fat. It's very low in protein, and it is extremely low in carbohydrate. And so you entered this world in a ketogenic state. Every person on this podcast right now has been in ketosis multiple times, whether you know it or not, because when you went a prolonged period without eating, even if it was overnight and you exercised, you went into a state of ketosis. So ketosis, the diet of ketosis, was originally formulated to treat epilepsy. They actually found that it had a positive effect on neural inflammation in the brain. If you saw my podcast with the Harvard physician, the PhD MD that I had on my podcast from Harvard, he's a Harvard psychiatrist, and he's treating some of the most drug-resistant mental illnesses with a keto diet. He does other types of diets as well, but he's using ketosis as a way to treat drug-resistant mental illness. Well, listen, if you can treat drug-resistant mental illness by being in ketosis, and you can actually have a positive effect on epilepsy by being in ketosis, how beneficial do you think it is temporarily for your body to be experiencing this state of ketosis? There's also something really, really interesting going on in your body. Write this word down. If you want to really have some fun tonight, I want you to Google deuterium depleted water. That's deuterium. Most of you have never heard of that. Deuterium is a water molecule. And inside of our mitochondria, we're actually making water. Your body makes, on an average day, about 100 gallons of intracellular water every single day. And people, when I say that to people, they go, Gary, that's impossible. How does my body make 100 gallons of water if I'm only drinking half a gallon of water a day? You make water in your cells the same way that they make it in space. You take two hydrogens, one oxygen, you slap them together, you have a water molecule. And then this molecule is actually split into energy inside of the mitochondria, inside of the motor of the mitochondria, the Krebs cycle and the electron transport chain. There is no way that you could consume enough water in a week to power your mitochondria for a single day. So we actually make water. Well, when you make water, there's two types of water that your cells can make: deuterium water or deuterium depleted water. And the difference is simple chemistry. It comes down to one extra proton. One extra proton. So if you look at the molecular structure of water and you add a proton in the orbit of that molecule, what happens is this is called heavy water or deuterium water. If you take that proton out, you have light water. You have deuterium depleted water. And what's the difference? Deuterium depleted water is really clean. It powers your mitochondria in a different way than heavy water does. I want you to think of slicing a mitochondria open and sort of looking across the mitochondria. If you were to actually open the doors of a mitochondria and look inside, and by the way, you have 110 trillion mitochondria in your body. 10% of your body weight is mitochondria. And this is the powerhouse of your cell. This is the battery that is driving every human being. The only reason why you are alert and oriented right now is because you're being powered by ATP made in the mitochondria. So imagine opening a ballroom door and just seeing 1,000 couples perfectly dancing to the music in perfect harmony and unison, spinning around all at the same time, very rhythmic, very coordinated, very beautiful. This is kind of what the inside of the mitochondria looks like. This Krebs cycle is a beautiful cycle. It's a cyclic, rhythmic, coordinated cycle inside of your mitochondria. And then somebody uninvited the fraternity brother that had way too many drinks, and he kicks open the door of the ballroom and he just goes sprinting right through. And as he sprints through, he collides with different couples. And as he runs into these couples, they fall to the ground and they never get up. This is what deuterium water does to the mitochondria. That extra proton is like a Tasmanian devil. I'm kind of dating myself here. Half the audience probably doesn't remember the Tasmanian devil. But if you do, and the Roadrunner and Bugs Bunny and Tom and Jerry, good for you. You're my generation. But so it's like a Tasmanian devil sort of sprinting through the center of this mitochondria. And just like these beautiful couples spinning in a circle, dancing rhythmically to the music, when you break them apart and they fall to the ground, they don't get back up. So deuterium water can actually downgrade the function of the mitochondria because it breaks the Krebs cycle, and the Krebs cycle never repairs itself. So when you start making deuterium depleted water, you're feeding the cleanest, lightest water into your cells. This is just another benefit that we get from fasting, because when we have deuterium depleted water in the body, the mitochondria is more efficient. When the mitochondria is more efficient, you have more energy. When you have more energy, your cells have the resources to do their job, to repair, to eliminate waste, to detoxify, and to regenerate. Your cells are very, very busy. If you actually just isolated one cell and you went through the wall of that cell, through the cytoplasm, and found the nucleus, inside of the nucleus is the DNA, right? And that's the boss. That's the CEO. So that's who's running the show. The DNA has two major roles, right? The DNA has one role to create an exact copy of itself. This is called replication. It has another role where it writes instructions into the cell, just like a CEO giving messages to the workers in its company. The DNA is constantly sending messages into the cell. These are called mRNA, messenger RNA, messenger ribonucleic acid. Those messages, when they get into the cell, they're copied, and the cell goes and conducts certain activities. Make a spike protein, throw this nutrient out, bring this nutrient in. So the more power we can feed to the mitochondria, the more efficient that process is. Fasting is really not just a waste elimination. When we think about eliminating waste, we think about stool and urine. I'm talking about cellular waste. You see, 300 billion times every single day, your cells are going through a process called methylation. And methylation is a very dirty process. Imagine having 1,000 people over to your house for a dinner party, and then after the dinner party ended and they got in their cars to go home, what your place would look like. This is exactly what happens inside of our cells. There's a lot of waste, cytokines, prostaglandin E2s, histamines, bradykinins, all of these waste products. And we need to clean that waste up. And the waste, just like exhaust, can back up and blow the engine. And so what's astounding about fasting is we are getting clean at a cellular level. So today's day 2. If you're sticking to the program, you woke up this morning, maybe you had some black coffee, maybe you put some acid kicker in there, maybe you just had your black coffee. You've had as much water as you want. You're avoiding the bone broth today. If you're not working out, you're not doing the perfect aminos. If you did the perfect aminos, it's not a big deal. They will not break your fast. Preferably, you're taking spring water, putting it into hydrogen water, and then drinking the hydrogen water throughout the day. So I've got the most commonly asked questions, which I'm going to go through in just a couple minutes. I know that our guest is coming in 2 more minutes. So I just want to make sure that I give him the platform when he gets in. And I'm going to talk about how you can use short-term fasting as a tool for energy, for focus, for concentration, how you can turn it into your secret weapon when you're traveling. One of my travel hacks that our next guest is even going to talk about is I fast on airplanes. On domestic flights, I'm fasted. And the reason why I fast on airplanes is not just the altitude and the electric smog that you're getting and all of the the EMF that you're getting and the dry air. It's that one of the worst things you can do is feed your body and just sit, right? This is when people get deep vein thrombosis. Maybe some of you are familiar with my story. I actually passenger next to me on a flight from Dubai that sat for 15 hours on a long flight and did nothing but eat and consume some alcohol. Got up and walked to the baggage claim and died right in front of me. I spent 30 minutes performing CPR while we waited for EMS to arrive. And these were deep vein thromboses moving from the calves into very likely what happened into the lung. So hydrating is super important on planes, but on domestic flights, I stay fasted. I use fasting as my superpower. So a lot of you road warriors that have early meetings, and you live in North Carolina and you have a meeting in New York, so you decide to take the early crack of dawn flight, and the flight leaves at 5:50, so you have to be at the airport at 4:50, which means you're getting up at 3:50. So you've already chopped into your sleep schedule, and now you need to borrow energy from somewhere. You can borrow energy from digestion. You see, we can start to use our physiology to game the system, right? So days when you're tired or worn down or exhausted or haven't slept well, and you need to focus and you need to concentrate and you need to be mentally alert, those are the days to fast until you get through that meeting or event. So one of my big secret weapons is if I wake up in Miami and I'm taking an early flight, which I don't do any longer, but I used to. If I was taking an early flight to New York, so I'm leaving at 6 in the morning and I have an 11 a.m. meeting in New York, I would fast from the time I woke up, other than black coffee and water, I would fast from the time I woke up until that meeting was finished. Try this next time you have an important meeting and you haven't really slept well. Try it the next time you have an early morning flight and you've been awake all night thinking about missing the flight. Try it the next time that you have an evening event and you need to be alert and oriented and focused and on your game for that evening event. Try skipping the meal and going to the event in a fasted state. You see, one of the things that happens when we eat, because digestion is such a priority to us, is that when this intestinal tract gets full of food, remember your intestinal tract is a 30-foot long conveyor belt. It's 30 feet long. If you stretched it out from the duodenum, from where the what's called the pyloric sphincter of the stomach exits into the small intestine, and you stretch that all the way out to the rectum, you'd find that it's a 30-foot long tube. When you start filling this tube with food, you will notice that there's blood vessels that are enveloping that tube. Some of the most prominent circulation in the body is right around the gut, because we got to pull all the nutrients out from our intestinal tract. So what happens is we stuff it full of food, especially high carbohydrate, high glycemic foods. And what happens? The blood diverts from our brain to our gut. And what goes with it? Oxygen, nutrients, amino acids, blood flow. So one of the best things that you can do to preserve your energy is to go in a fasted state. Don't fill the tube with a lot of food. So what I'm saying is when you're done this fasting challenge, begin to use short periods of fasting as your secret weapon. You want to be on your game and alert and oriented for an early morning meeting. Skip the heavy breakfast. Definitely skip the high glycemic carbohydrate breakfast. People wake up tired. They have coffee with cream, with sugar, a bagel, toast, oatmeal. They have, God forbid, croissants and danishes and all of these high glycemic foods. And 45 minutes later, their energy is in the absolute tank. If you have to eat, stick to proteins and fats, and that will prolong your energy. Why? Because they are slower to metabolize. They don't spike your insulin, and they don't require as much blood to digest. I actually went to a biohacking conference. It was Dave Asprey's conference. It was years ago. It was at the Beverly Hills hotel in Beverly Hills. I don't know why that's important, but now you know. And what they did was they took a bunch of participants and they had them stand in front of a thermograph, right, which reads the heat coming out of your body. And when you stand in front of this thermograph, you see that your head glows bright orange and red, right? There's a lot of blood up there, a lot of heat, which means there's a lot of oxygen because wherever the blood is, that's where the oxygen is, right? And the stomach was like a light yellow and like a greenish. People that ate very high glycemic meals, that ate pure pasta, white bread, and drank orange juice at the luncheon on purpose, what we saw was the head changed color. The head actually started to turn yellow and green, and the gut lit up red and orange. All of the heat moved to the gut. That meant all of the blood moved to the gut. All of the oxygen moved to the gut. All of the energy went to the gut. So you decide where you want your energy to be. You want it to be up here or you want it to be down here. I'm not saying you need to fast every day. I'm saying that you can use this fasting principle as a secret hack to get energy on the days when you need it the most. So we're going to get some of the most asked questions. Several people, I'm feeling nauseous. Is this normal? Is this the keto flu? So the keto flu, believe it or not, the most common reason why you get the keto flu is low sodium. Please make sure that you're taking at least a quarter to a half teaspoon a day, preferably in the morning, of the Baja Gold salt. If you don't have the Baja Gold salt, take the Celtic salt. I mean, when your kidneys are deficient in sodium, remember, when you're in ketosis, your body uses 4 times the amount of sodium, right? Your kidneys use 4 times the amount of sodium to process proteins and amino acids and what have you. So one of the ways you can get through the nauseous feeling and also get through the feeling of being really fatigued or flu-like symptoms is to add that mineral salt. That usually stops it from happening. If you look up causes of the keto flu, you're going to see that sodium deficiency is one of the main causes of the keto flu. And why is that? Because when you go into ketosis, your body significantly increases its utilization of sodium. So Aaron Escobedo, can we drink lemon water tea with ginger in lieu of just plain water? Yes. You can have spices. You can have teas. You can have lemon water. You can have ginger. Ginger teas are amazing. Just don't put honey in there because honey will break your fast. One of my favorite teas, you can't drink this one on a fast, is to just take actual ginger, slice it thin, throw it in a coffee mug, take a little bit of mint leaves, slice them up, throw them in a coffee mug, and then pour boiling hot water over it, and then add a teaspoon of honey. It is unbelievable how good that is, and really good for you. Skip the honey if you're on the water fast. Multiple people have asked, can we add lemon water to our drinking? Can we add lemon to our drinking water? Absolutely, you can add lemon to your drinking water. You can also add the Baja Gold sea salt to your drinking water. My assistant was so nice today. I told her that it's a little low on energy, and I had a couple of calls with clients this morning, Zoom calls. So she tried to bring in a smorgasbord of choices for me. So God bless her heart. Shout out to Mariah. She brought me my Echo water bottle. Then she separately brought me the Mountain Valley spring water. And then she also brought me a bottle of Ophora water. You're really trying, Mariah. My only choice is to change this up or to put a little pinch of salt in here. So, and I keep telling myself, man, I am so full. I am just absolutely stuffed. That breath of air just took me over the edge. Okay, so can you click back and show me the questions? How we doing with our guest? Coming. Okay. Probably has the time on. Can you talk a bit about the difference between distilled water and spring water and why you still prefer spring water? Absolutely. So distilled water is water that has been demineralized, right? Think of it as being sanitized. Believe it or not, if you actually to look at the water on a molecular level, you would find that there's a lot of stuff in there, right? You would find potassium, magnesium, sodium. In mineral waters, you might find boron, manganese, silica. You might find all of these different micronutrients. You might find all of these different minerals, right? They're very prevalent in spring waters in nature. If you actually took a cup and you scooped water out of a running stream, you would actually find there's a ton of minerals in that water. When it's actually running over the rock, believe it or not, it grabs a little bit of zinc, a little bit of magnesium, a little bit of copper, a little bit of boron. Some of these things you don't hear so much about: molybdenum, manganese, silica. And so these are minerals. And so when there's something called osmosis, right, which is the movement across a gradient. So in other words, if you took a membrane and you filled up a bucket of water separated by a membrane, and on one side you had high salt, and on one side you had no salt in the water, what would happen is the salt, the water would move into the area of high concentration to try to dilute it. It seeks an equilibrium. So water can attract minerals or it can donate minerals. So if you have mineral water, it is donating potassium, magnesium, molybdenum, iodine, silica, boron, zinc. It's donating all of these minerals, right? If you have distilled water, it is attracting those minerals. So distilled water can dehydrate you very, very quickly. Why? Because it's actually pulling minerals out of your tissue, because the opposite gradient is happening, right? The minerals are higher in the tissue than in the water, so they move into the water to try to create equilibrium, and then you urinate them out. I actually had a client who was a female fitness model, in extraordinarily good shape, beautifully in shape. She was hyper disciplined about her routine. She was actually preparing for a competition. She was drinking a gallon of water a day. Her trainer made the mistake of getting her distilled water, and she drank a gallon of distilled water every day. By day 4, she was tachycardic and ended up in the ER. And what they realized was that she was electrolyte deficient. She depleted all of the potassium and the magnesium and the sodium out of her system, and she was critically low. It actually sent her into tachycardia. True story. So my preference is spring waters. Very hard to do it with overdo it with spring water. And then obviously, you know that I'm a huge fan of hydrogen water. I think that's the most powerful water you can put in the human body. By the way, don't take my word for it. If you have time, write this down. Go to hydrogenstudies.com. Hydrogenstudies.com. When you get to hydrogenstudies.com, you're going to see 1,335 peer-reviewed published clinical studies on hydrogen's benefit in the human body. You can even go to select all studies, and you can deselect the animal studies and just look at the studies in human beings. Inflammation, circulation, absorption of our nutrients, absorption of minerals, feeding the flora in our gut bacteria, feeding the flora in our gut bacteria. So if you're a science nerd like I am, hydrogenstudies.com will blow your mind. You will forever and for the rest of your life be a big believer in hydrogen water. Several people said, I quit last time because of dizziness and fatigue, even despite using the mineral salts. What are some other ways to prevent this so I can go the full 3 days? So one of the best ways to prevent dizziness and fatigue is to not exercise intensely and drive your blood sugar too low. Some people have very aggressive blood sugar. They're very insulin sensitive. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. But if you get severely dizzy and severely fatigued, my suggestion is that you go to bone broth, and that will pull you out of that. It will break your fast, but you will still get the benefits of fast mimicking. You see, Dr. Walter Longo did some research, which was published recently. He wrote a book called The Longevity Diet. I've also done a podcast with him. He is a professor at University of Southern California. And he's probably the most published author in the world on fasting. He's considered the world's authority on fasting. And one of the things that he saw a nearly identical benefit of was fast mimicking, not fully fasting. So just by reducing our caloric intake, we can still get a lot of the benefits of fasting. We can get cellular autophagy. We can increase cellular senescence, albeit not to the same effect. We can raise our growth hormone level, albeit not to the same level. So rather than get zero benefit of it and bail and just start eating solid foods, just go back to your bone broth if you get really dizzy. Probably is an indication of blood sugar. Most people get extra dizzy when they exert themselves in a fasted state. Tim Fuller, is headache normal and can I take aspirin? You can take aspirin. I prefer that you don't, but you could take aspirin if you have a really, really severe headache. Usually the mineral salts will prevent this. Remember, there's a really interesting study. It was actually published in the Journal of Headaches. I got a lot of flack for this online for some reason. I even put a link to the study. There were 3,997 participants, and it was in the Journal of Headaches. It was published in 2016. You can look the study up with just that information I gave you. And what they did was they looked at the inverse relationship between migraine headaches and sodium intake. Yes, migraine headaches and sodium intake. As sodium levels went up, migraine headaches went down. The incidence of migraine headaches went down. I've noticed this in my own consulting practice. We see about 20,000 new patients a month for gene testing. So we collect voluminous amounts of data. Lots of clients complained about migraine headaches. I read this study. So we started putting people on mineral salts, Baja Gold salt, Celtic sea salt. I used to be a fan of the pink Himalayan salt. I'm no longer a fan of it just because of the amount of heavy metals that they're finding in some of these salts because they're being imported from China. But and in this study, when you really think about it, the brain does not have any pain receptors. That's right. The brain is not capable of sending a pain signal. So when you have a headache, you're not feeling the pain in your brain. Your brain can't send a pain signal. So you're feeling the pain in something called the dura, which is a covering that's over the brain. Imagine just stretching saran wrap over the top of your brain, okay? And the dura is fraught with pain receptors. And the dura hates two things. It hates being stretched and it hates being contracted. So whether or not it's being stretched or contracted is determined by the osmotic gradient, the movement of water across that membrane. What determines the movement of water across that membrane? The sodium gradient. So it is astounding how many people have seen migraine headaches go into remission just by adding sodium to their drinking water. And before you attack me for that, please look up that study. You will see actually the peer-reviewed published clinical study supporting just that. And by the way, there's very little downside to using a mineral salt as taking a shot at reducing migraine headaches. He's joining in 5. Okay, our guest is joining us in 5 minutes. He's literally one of my favorite people on earth. If you know me well enough, you already know who it is. But if you don't, and you're just joining me, just sit there and wallow in suspense. Just suffer in suspense for 5 more minutes. Okay. Nayeli Garcia. I love how you guys are identifying these people. Mike, it's like The Price is Right. Come on down. Also dating myself with that show. Wow. I'm like an old fart. Would making our own soda water with just mineral water or soda stream be okay? Yes. Making your own soda water would be good. Whatever it takes to create some variety, like my assistant tried today, bringing me hydrogen water, oxygen water, and mineral water. And I felt like, wow, this is like a buffet. Thank you, Mariah. But yes, that's okay. Just don't put the flavorings in there. Diana Sorkin. Can you drink miso instead of bone broth? I'm vegan. Yes, you can actually. I should have mentioned that yesterday. Thank you so much for bringing that up. You can drink miso. They also make tofu broths and they also make vegetable broths, right? There are vegetable broths that are non-animal based and some of the vegetable broths are amazing. They actually have pretty high bioavailable protein content. I think they're made from peas and other vegetable sources. By the way, if you're vegan, you have to be eating shelled hemp seeds. I don't think there is a more nutrient-dense vegan food on the planet than organic shelled hemp seeds. Okay, our guest is entering the waiting room. I am fired up for this. This is going to motivate you guys. We're going to welcome him to the stage. Oh, he's starting his video. All right, awesome. Yo!
What's up, buddy?
I can see you, man. What's going on? The art of war.
We had a disconnect. I thought that you meant 3:15, not 12:15.
Yeah, sorry, I was doing East Coast time, so
No,
I should have converted that for you.
So talk to me. What do you got going on?
Good. So I've got so we've got thousands of people on here. I'm doing a 3-day water fast. We're at day 2 of the water fast. I'm trying to keep people from quitting, dude. I'm already noticing that I'm getting more jacked. But you know, you're infamous for following my advice on the first 3-day water fast. It splashed all over the internet. I want to talk about your journey, like what you got out of fasting. I mean, you just fasted on your way to Saudi too.
Yeah, I follow your advice on everything, not just water fasting.
Thank you.
It's fun. It's funny you hit me up about this today. I literally have a couple of employees. We had this big employee thing last night, and all the employees were coming up to me, talking to me about the water fast. So I'm giving some of my employees here the tools today to help them get through this thing.
Yeah, tell them to go to theultimatehuman.com. I wrote a water fasting guide, and it's free.
So if 2 years ago, if you'd have told me that I'd be fasting and water fasting and all this stuff, I thought I would have said you're ridiculous. I would never do something like this. Then after I tried it, I'm so into fasting now. You also taught me that when I fly to fast, drink the hydrogen water, drink electrolytes, and you will feel so much better. It's unbelievable. So when I flew to Saudi, I did it to Abu Dhabi last time I went, did it to Saudi this time, and I fasted on the way there, probably like 33 hours. And I felt amazing. Worked out like a beast when I got there. Then on the way back, I fasted something like 26 or 27 hours. But the water fast, I mean, you can tell everybody what the benefits are internally. Externally, what it does to you is crazy, and that's not even the reason you're doing it. But it is one of the greatest things I do. I'm only supposed to do it 2 times a year. You know, they say 2 times a year is good. Yeah, I like doing it multiple times a year. I love it. Yeah. I love the way it makes me feel, and I could not recommend it more to people. I will tell people this. If you've never fasted before, I have another friend who's doing it right now, and she's into like the 24-hour mark, and she's freaking out, and you know, you start to feel hungry. It's your brain. You have to fight your brain. Your brain is telling you you're hungry. Your brain is telling you you need to eat. It's not true. Just drink more water and just power through this thing. I promise you, when you get done with the 3 days of the water fast, you will not only feel this unbelievable sense of accomplishment, but physically, how you're going to feel will blow your mind. And it's almost this like, I know this sounds
I remember when you called me and told me about the mental clarity. You're like, dude, I feel like I took a limitless pill.
The mental clarity is unbelievable, and you have this euphoric type feeling. It's I know I sound weird, but it's like spiritual, man. It's incredible. If I heard me talking to me 2 years ago, I'd be like, this guy is an absolute nut job. But I've experienced it. It's real. It's unbelievable, and it is absolutely positively life-changing. Just like cold plunging and all the other things. It will absolutely change your life in many positive ways, mentally, physically, and everything else.
You know what I tell these guys about fasting, Dana? Is it's one of those things that's portable, right? You know, like cold plunging might not be as portable, although yours is. Do you know that I stayed at the Peninsula in New York this past weekend? By the way, thank you for the room upgrade. And when I checked in, the GM told me, I was like, hey, can I get some ice brought up to the room? He goes, oh, you know, we keep a cold plunge here for Mr. White. So when he comes here, we put it in his room. I go, bring him up to my room. So you got your own cold plunge at the Peninsula in New York. That's how committed he is. But
I have my own cold plunges stashed everywhere all over the world. Believe me when I tell you. Yeah. I'm addicted to cold plunging, and it is one of the greatest things I've ever done. And I have to say, my tummy had a growling at 1 o'clock today. I keep cooking and feeding. That's the other thing. That great post, whoever just said that, the lady that just sent that, what happens is over the 3 days, Nobody else's life changes, only yours does. And you will be around food. Your family's eating food. And it's actually one of the things that tests your mental toughness. You have to sit there. I sat 3 days and watched my family eat dinner.
Dude, you sat in a tube in a plane and watched your security guard mash food down.
Hunter and Trey, they were literally eating everything on the plane. But it's part of the mental toughness of doing something like this. And I'm telling you, there's such an incredible sense of accomplishment once you get through it, on top of how incredible you feel when it's over.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Well, Dana, everybody's commenting in the chat how good you look, brother. Dana looks amazing. Everybody's just saying you look the best you've ever looked in your life. I'm so excited to be on this journey with you. You know, you've done more for my career and exposure than anyone on the planet, and you've benefited from that. But guys, he's a convert. And so for those of you that are doing this for the first time, trust me when I tell you, this man used to love food. I
still love food, but
yeah.
You know what I love more than food? The way that I feel. Okay. And thank you everybody for saying the nice things, but how I look doesn't compare to the way that I feel. I feel young again. I feel like I'm in my 30s again. I'm running at a level that I couldn't run at 2 years ago. I don't mean physically running. I mean running my life. Running in my life at a level that I couldn't sustain 2 years ago. So How you look is great. Everybody wants to look good. Everybody wants to feel young and all that shit. I'm telling you, I don't do anything or try anything new without calling Gary and saying, what do you think of this? Is this legit? Does this work? Does this not work? You know, and many of you might have seen me battling some of the guys now, these freaks that are popping up trying to debunk Gary Brecka and all the things. In no way, shape, or form am I saying, oh, yeah, do Gary Brecka, do this, do that. Don't do it. Don't do it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. You know, 3-day water fast is hard. Some of the things that Gary does is hard to do and all this stuff. I'm telling you from personal experience, if you do what this man tells you to do, he will absolutely positively change your life in ways you couldn't imagine. So have a great day, everybody. Kick some ass on the water.
Thank you, brother. We appreciate you and love you so much. I'll see you this weekend.
You too, brother. See you Saturday.
See you Friday, brother.
Yep.
Wow. That was amazing. Thank you. Well, guys, if that wasn't enough motivation, to get you through the water fast, I don't know what is. I texted him right before the water fast and I said, listen, I got thousands of people getting on this thing. I'd love for you to just come in and tell your personal journey story. I had an amazing journey with Dana. Lots of you know about the journey I've had with Dana and thousands of other clients. And, it really comes down to the basics. There's nothing I like more than trying to get the message to the masses. My message is, again, it's for the masses. I am not trying to be the ultra woke biohacker talking to ultra woke biohackers, which is very often why some of these guys will attack me, because I believe that this information belongs to humanity. It doesn't belong to me. I'm blessed enough to have it flow through me. But things like fasting, cold plunging, or cold showers, contacting the surface of the earth, grounding, breath work, sunlight, whole food diets, these are not, first of all, they're not monetarily benefiting me, but they will change the face of humanity if we could just get this message out. I talk a lot of times about, how heartsick I get walking through Disney World or walking through Universal Studios, because I believe that, a lot of America just doesn't know. And, when I see a 13-year-old kid sitting on a park bench drinking a 64-ounce Big Gulp, 5 sodas, and having a funnel cake in the other hand, which is deep fried, folic acid laden white flour, deep fried in seed oils with 10x sugar on the top, I literally want to just stop and shake the parents. But I realize that's not a parent that doesn't like their child. It's not child abuse. It's a parent that truly doesn't know. And you sit through the Super Bowl and you just look at the ads, hundreds of millions of dollars in ads, and it's all pizza and chicken wings and fried foods and Doritos and processed foods. It's like, we don't stand a chance. But if we actually put the faith back into the human body, the ability that this has to heal itself, the power that this has over this. If we could just restore that faith back in humanity. One of the things I really try to do by being so present for these water fasting challenges, guys, is I want you to believe in yourself. I know how hard it is to get through these 3 days. But when you wake up the morning of day 4, you're going to go, my God, I did something really special. Like I get goosebumps just telling you this. I really do. And it's exciting for me to work with A-listers and celebrities and athletes. But the real exciting thing for me is when I do these one-on-ones and you guys get on there and you tell me about a life-changing moment you had in your life or with your family. That is chicken soup to my soul. I mean, it really means the world to me. And I want to turn you into converts so that you go out and spread the message on your own too. That's how we're going to touch the face of humanity, is like when you're somebody's aunt or somebody's uncle and they go, Uncle Larry did what? You didn't eat no food for 3 days? Well, how'd you feel? How come you didn't die? No, I didn't just not die. I felt amazing and I lost 10 pounds. And like, I want to shock the world with like, those of you that might have not seen the inside of a gym in 6 years, but you did a water fast and you changed your physiology that fast, that has impact and it has meaning and it motivates the people around you. And if you inspire somebody, they will make a transition, right? You can create a transition in somebody's life by 2 things: creating enough fear or creating enough inspiration. I prefer to do it through inspiration, right? But you can also create enough fear. You get a medical diagnosis that rattles your cage. That fear can change your behavior, but inspiration can change your behavior too. And that's why I try to put groups together like this of like-minded people, that there's nothing special about myself or anyone else on this call. We're all in this for the same thing. We're all just trying to better who we are. So I want to make sure that I get a chance to answer a couple of questions left. We have 15 minutes, so I'm going to get to more of your YouTube questions. Hope you guys appreciate it. Dana White, maybe give him a thank you on Instagram for giving us some time today. He's got a really busy schedule this week. He's got Slap, he's got a concert, he's got the big UFC fight coming up on Saturday. So Francisco Carrieri, and if I mispronounce your name, I apologize. My staff should give me how to pronounce it. I eat pure fat when the hunger gets really bad. So when you say you're eating pure fat, I hope you're eating, good sources of fat, butters, high fat yogurts, tallow, avocados, things that are very high in fat, not burn saturated meat fats on purpose. But yes, you could actually eat some pure fat. My preference would be that you actually eat higher protein and not just a pure fat. So bone broth would be my go-to if the hunger gets really, really bad. Remember, if you get 100% of the benefit from fasting, you get 65 or 70% of the benefit from fast mimicking. So just by the caloric reduction, you will still get into ketosis. You will still go through autophagy. You will still reduce cellular senescence. So if you can't make it all the way, make it some of the way. Okay, so I understand that this is a struggle and it's stressful. Suggestions for any stressful times to not break the fast with food. So when you get, so here's what I do when I feel like I really need to eat. I have 3 go-tos. Number 1, I walk outside. I actually get up and I move my butt away from food and I try to get outside. Right. I live in a condo building, so the outdoors are always just, very close to me. I don't care if it's cold or if it's hot, or if it's raining. If you just step outside and change your state, you'll break that cycle of thought. The second thing, and one of my favorite go-tos, is breath work. If I find myself just getting really hungry and distracted, it's funny. When you're really hungry, your body will actually stand you up and walk you to the refrigerator. How many of you guys have had that happen, right? Where you just found yourself in the kitchen unconsciously and you're grabbing the refrigerator door and you're like, oh, wait, I'm fasted. So just 3 rounds of 5 breaths. That can change your state right away as well. And the other thing is just getting up for a walk, just a brisk walk, right? Do things that actually change your state. Drink, get outside, do breath work, go for a brisk walk. Remember, right now, I'm on East Coast time, so it's 4 o'clock, almost 4 o'clock East Coast time. So in my mind, I'm thinking I got 5 hours. I got 5 hours till I'm getting to bed. You can do anything for 5 hours, right? I'm not thinking about tomorrow. I'm thinking about 5 hours. I saw a really interesting post on Instagram, and I forget who it was. It was a former Marine, and he said his father had been sober for 30 years, and he had been an alcoholic when he was young, and as he grew up, um, he was always curious about his dad's sobriety, and he said every time he would ask his father, "Are you ever going to drink alcohol again?" And he'd say, "I don't know, but I'm not going to drink for one more day. I'm just going to not drink for one more day." And all he meant by that was, I'm not biting off the entire future. I'm I'm just going to get through this moment because I know if I can just be sober for one more day, I'm going to be sober for 30 years. And he said that every time his son asked him that for 30 years. And he had been sober for 30 years. And he kept asking him, "You ever going to drink again, Dad?" And he said, "I don't know, but I'm not going to drink for one more day." So that's how I want you to think about this fasting. I'm not going to eat for one more hour. It's 4 o'clock. I'm not going to eat till 5 o'clock. And then at 5 o'clock, make it to 6 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, make it to 7 o'clock. And at 7 o'clock, make it to 8 to 9, and then get in bed at 10 o'clock and close your eyes, and you get an 8-hour break. All right. And that's really how I try to approach dieting, biooptimization, major changes in your lifestyle. Nobody's going to become a raw food vegan overnight if you're a meat eater. Nobody is going to become strict carnivore overnight if you eat a pescatarian diet. My point is that we can do this one bite at a time, right? So if you're really struggling with the hunger pangs right now, drink water, get outside, do some breath work, or move your butt a little bit, get up and take a walk around, and just tell yourself it's 4 o'clock. I'm going to make it to 5 o'clock. Just think in terms of that. Really is a way to mind trick your brain. Delina Santos, can you fast every month? If you're going to fast every month, do a 3-day water fast every month. My preference would be that you cyclically fast, meaning that you fast every Sunday. So you go to bed at, you eat your last meal at 7, 8 o'clock on Saturday night. Don't eat again until 7, 8 o'clock Sunday night. It's actually much easier to do that because you don't go the whole day Sunday without eating. You know that you're going to get to eat that night. And if you know you have a break coming and you have a big meal coming, it's easier to just pinpoint and make it to that goal. So rather than doing a 3-day water fast once a month, I would prefer that you do cyclical fasting once a week. And then every 3 or 4 months, do a 3-day water fast. Mary Diaz, started mushroom coffee. Does this break your fast? My understanding is that mushroom coffee does break your fast. I used to take a coffee, I think it was called Doze. And it had cordyceps mushrooms in it. Don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of those. My understanding is that the mushroom coffees do break your fast. You can look to see if the saturated fat, carbohydrates, fiber, and added sugars, if there's numbers in any one of those areas, it will break a fast. Jane, I do methylene blue while I fly as well. Can I take this while on a water fast? There's no real need to take methylene blue on a water fast. What methylene blue does, for those of you that aren't familiar with methylene blue, is what it does when it gets into the bloodstream is it changes the state of iron inside of your red blood cell. It changes it from a ferric state, ending in C, to a ferrous state, ending in OUS, from ferric to ferrous. Doesn't sound like a big deal, but when you change the state of iron from ferric to ferrous, you improve its binding affinity for oxygen, right? So really what methylene blue does is help you bind oxygen in the red blood cell. That's its superpower. And by the way, if you combine it with red light therapy and photobiomodulation, it's like putting methylene blue on steroids. One of the nice things about not eating is you have more bioavailable oxygen. You have less oxygen diverted to digestion, and all of that oxygen is diverted to physiologic function. So no, you don't need to take methylene blue, in my opinion, during a fast. 10 minutes left. Leo King, if you have high blood pressure, then too much sodium will cause more of these into your blood and increase your blood pressure. Not necessarily. Sodium gets blamed for a lot of crimes that it doesn't commit. Remember that it is a balanced mineral salt that I'm telling you to eat, not iodized table salt. I never, ever recommend iodized bleached white table salt. I think that is terrible for you, and you are right. It will actually change the osmotic gradient and can draw water into the bloodstream and increase your blood pressure. You rarely have the same condition with sodium. If you are grittily hypertensive and you know that and you have a BP monitor, you're welcome to monitor your blood pressure during fasting. For most people, they get hyposystolic, not hypersystolic during a fast. George Willis, is there any muscle loss during a fast? No, there is usually glycogen loss, which actually shrinks the size of the muscle. Remember, glycogen is our storage reserve for glucose. When we store glycogen in the muscles, it's never contributed back to the bloodstream. The muscles use it at the muscle level. But the glycogen that's stored in our liver actually does turn back into glucose through something called gluconeogenesis, the new production of glucose, so that glycogen that's stored in your liver can show up in your bloodstream. So no, usually after 3 days, there's no muscle loss, especially if you took perfect aminos on day one. If you exercised and took perfect aminos on the next 2 days and you exercised, not likely that you'll have any muscle loss at all. Are nicotine pouches okay to use on a fast? Yes, nicotine patches will not break a fast. So if you're using that to stop smoking, and your risk of relapsing with smoking or vaping, and you're taking a nicotine patch, I would suggest that you continue with the nicotine pouches or patches if you're using those, because it's too many things for your body to battle at the same time, right? Again, we're just trying to get through this fast. You're going to get tremendous benefits from fasting. And if you're using pouches or patches, especially if you're trying to get over smoking. Is it okay to smoke on a water fast? I'm never going to say that it's okay to smoke. That's a really loaded question for me. I would prefer that you not smoke at all. In fact, if you're struggling with trying to stop smoking, one of the best things you can do is get a methylation test and support healthy dopamine levels. What's driving you to smoke is not how much you like inhaling smoke. It is the dopamine ding that you get from nicotine. Same thing that drives alcohol. Same thing that people get addicted to is sugar. I do not look down on people that are addicted to smoking or alcohol or sugar or any other compound, because the truth is addiction is one of the most misunderstood physiologic issues in the human body. 99% of all addicts in this world did not wake up one day and say, I want to get really banged up. They woke up one day and said, I want to feel normal. In the search for normalcy, they developed an addiction. And what makes them feel normal is the rise in dopamine. And that dopamine ding comes from nicotine, from alcohol, from promiscuity, from activities that create a lot of fear. Sometimes when you talk to those people, you'll say, why do you do that? And they will tell you, because it makes me feel normal. And so if we can find normalcy in other areas, things that raise our dopamine level, like cold plunging, like euphoria from exercise, like breath work, like sunlight and grounding, then we can move some of the less salient ways of getting dopamine out of our life and bring in some of the safer, more effective ways to bring dopamine into our lives. In 2010, I was the age group champion for the state of Florida in medium distance triathlons. I would bet that 45% of the guys that I raced with were recovering addicts. And this was just their new addiction. They switched from nicotine and alcohol to exercise and work. They became workaholics or work alcoholics. So I know it was a lot longer answer than you probably bargained for, but that's my answer. So let me see if we have any more. We do. Michael Irizarry, what should we expect regarding bowel movements? You should expect a decrease in your bowel movements. You should have had one the first day of the water fast. It's very common to not have bowel movements for the 2 days afterwards, or have very minor bowel movements. One of the things that I suggest when we refeed, and we're going to talk about this on day 3, is that we ease our way back into solid foods, steamed vegetables, rice that is also steamed. Those of you that cold soak rice, please stop doing that. It's very dangerous for you. Rice is known for mold spores and mycotoxins, so always boil rice. Make sure you get the non-fortified, non-enriched version of white rice. It's very easily digestible. Soups, not high fiber things like salads and raw vegetables. Those are not good ways to break a fast. lumpy fruits like raspberry, blueberry, blackberry, strawberry. Yogurts are great ways to break a fast. Bone broth is a great way to break a fast. In fact, I'll even make a list of go-to foods that you could use to break a fast on day 4. So you get up in the morning, maybe you have some bone broth, and you don't go straight back to sausage, bacon, and eggs right out of the gate. So we're now wrapping up and we'll be switching over to our VIPs from 4 to 5 p.m. Guys, I hope you really felt like, especially you guys that are on here for free, I hope that you really felt that you got value from this. My only intention in getting on these calls every day, I'm very sincere, is to provide value. I want this to be such a shockingly good experience for you that it has a ripple effect to your family, your coworkers, your friends. I want you to be like Dana White, like the evangelical that found Jesus and can't stop talking about Jesus. I want you to just not be able to stop talking about, the fact that you were able to overcome this obstacle and get through it. And you found like a new found path to health. And you're now using fasting as your own little secret hack. So for those of you that are VIPs, we're going to switch over to the VIP room and open up that direct line of communication. If you had your hand up yesterday, I'm going to get to you first. I'm going to try to get through as many questions as possible. For those of you that are not VIPs, now is the time to become a VIP. I promise you, I will give you more than $47 a month in value. If you're not satisfied, I will absolutely give you your money back. But I am trying to build an army of like-minded people. I call them the rule Breckas, so that we can go out and inspire the world to make a transformation. So thank you guys for giving me your time today. VIPs, stay tuned. We're going to move over into the VIP chat now. God bless you guys. Stay strong. Bite this elephant off one bite at a time. Make it to bed tonight. And tomorrow I'll be back to give you more motivation. We're live. We're live. All right, VIPs, welcome back. We're going to get to you guys in the order that we had yesterday. So in the interest of time, I know a lot of you have a lot of questions, but let's try to keep it to one question. I'll try to be as precise as I can so we can get through as many as possible. Very often I find that people that can keep it to one question, it's the same question that a lot of other people have. So I'm going to do my best to be as thorough and concise as I possibly can. Remember, I am not a physician. I'm not licensed to practice medicine. I can't overstate that. So try not to take anything that I say to be construed as medical advice. But that being said, let's start firing up questions because the VIP group, this is the group that I want to pour myself into. I appreciate you guys giving me your time and actually paying for a service. And I promise you that I'm going to over deliver as much as possible for what you paid. Hopefully, we're going to have a life-changing experience together. Hi there.
Hi, Gary. First of all,
I love your New York background.
yeah, I'm actually in Toronto, but I used to go to New York.
I know. Well, I know you're not in New York. There'd be a lot more traffic on the street. That's how I know that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I saw you speak at Build in Dallas a couple of years ago and absolutely loved it. And I learned so much from you. So thank you so much. I have a question and a bit of a weird one. I've seen my doctors and I keep hearing that it's a cosmetic thing and, get it cosmetically removed because, if you're so worried about showing it. But I had this, so I have two children and I had this right after giving birth. They call it, by Googling, axillary breast tissue. They call it axillary breast tissue. It's kind of like it looks like a fat, like an armpit fat, and it's only on one arm. And I started getting it after, breastfeeding and such. And I heard that it's hormonal and it's probably like milk glands, breast tissue. For the past year, I hired a trainer. I go to the gym 5 times a week. I've done everything. It is not an arm fat. It is not a lump. There's nothing hard. My doctors have checked it. It's just milk glands. And I don't want to go surgically to remove it. But I was wondering, do you heard about like any recommendations?
I'm somewhat familiar with this. I also know that these conditions are exacerbated by something called estrogen dominance, which is an imbalance of estrogen in women. Postmenopausal, this is really, really common because remember what happens during pregnancy is your estrogen goes from the highest end of the level during a menstruating cycle of 400 into the 4000s. It's perfectly normal for a woman's estrogen during pregnancy to be 4,000 to be 4,500. The highest it goes during a normal menstrual cycle, follicular ovulation or luteal, is in the 400s. So when you have 10 times the amount of circulating estrogen, what happens is you have estrogen becomes dominant. And this is a good thing during pregnancy, right? Because one of the main roles of estrogen, especially phytoestrogens, is to bind water in the interstitial space. And why do you want to do that? You want to bloat to protect the baby. You want to thicken the uterine wall. You want to provide a soft padded environment for the baby. You also want to insulate the baby so there's not a lot of temperature change inside of the womb. And so the estrogen dominance very often sticks around for months or even years post-pregnancy. Now, I'm not certain that this is what's going on in your case, but I would do what's called a Dutch test, which is a much more accurate test for female hormone cycling than taking a snapshot, meaning a blood draw, because a blood draw will just look at your hormones at that point in time, right? It's like when we look at your blood sugar, glucose is just how much sugar is in your blood when you had the blood drawn. Hemoglobin A1C is a 3-month average of your blood sugar. It's a much more accurate measure of how well you're controlling your blood sugar. So for estrogen dominance, you'll spot this on what's called a Dutch urine test. And then you can treat the estrogen dominance. And the most common treatment for that and safest treatment for that is something called DIM, diindolomethane. It's capital D, capital I, capital M. It comes from cruciferous vegetables. It's actually synthesized from something called 3-indole carbinol, which is in cruciferous vegetables. So it's just a concentrated cruciferous vegetable extract. It's a great way to lower the phytoestrogens, and it may actually deflate that tissue.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Hey, man, you make it through every time, True Freedom.
I do. I have a question.
You're persistent.
Yes. I have a question. I'm type 2 diabetic. My concern is what happens if my sugars go too low while on
Yes, if your sugars go too low, then I would really recommend bone broths, right? Fast mimicking is a good way to get the benefits of fasting without getting you into a hypoglycemic state. So if you have a CGM, constant glucose monitor, or you have a finger prick test, and you actually start to feel that state of mild confusion, that severe brain fog, that extra fogginess, or that sort of lightheadedness and inability to kind of take a deep breath, that woozy feeling that you get from extra low blood sugar, bone broths will usually suffice to put your blood sugar back into, the optimal range, and you'll still get the benefits of fast mimicking.
Yeah, because it's just dropping right now, and I just have a little concern that if it drops
Yes.
too low.
We definitely don't want it to drop too low. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. But this shows you the power of fasting and the body's ability to shift into a ketotic state. What will eventually happen is your sugars will start to rise. Your body will convert fat into energy. It will store it as glycogen, and it will turn that glycogen into glucose and put it back into the bloodstream. But
So
rather than wait for-
I can still water fast, and then the sugar will still come back. Is that right?
The sugars will usually still come back. But if you begin to get severely hypoglycemic, which can potentially be life-threatening, then you want to start sipping on some bone broth and see if you can slowly bring it up. Don't let it get all the way bottomed out, so then you have to use an orange juice or something like that to really spike your blood sugar. Take action while the blood sugar is still dropping before it gets severely hypoglycemic. So my suggestion would be to sip on bone broths.
Okay, great. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You got it, man. You guys, these are great. I get energy from this. I could do this all day. I'm going to put the next one on deck. There we go. Hi there.
Hi.
Georgia?
This is Georgia. Yes.
Georgia?
Hey.
Georgia.
Georgia. Yeah. Yeah.
Georgia, how are you, Georgia?
Doing okay. So I donated a kidney about 3 years ago. Before that, I was 50 pounds lighter. Used to run ultras, triathlon, whatnot. So moving forward, when I fast, what do I need to know about ketosis, kidney health, and just taking care of the one kidney I have?
Extra important for you to spread your mineral salt out throughout the day. One of the things if you get the salt right, you shouldn't have any strain on the kidneys from going into ketosis. In fact, fasting is linked to an increase in EGFR, which is your glomerular filtration rate, and a decrease in blood urea nitrogen and creatinine being the byproduct of muscle breakdown, but two of the major measurements of poison levels in the blood that they use on a kidney panel. And so my suggestion is that you still stick to the fast. I would spread your mineral salt out throughout the day. So every time you drink water, take a little pinch of the Baja Gold or Celtic salt and put it in your drinking water. Don't front end load it so much in the mornings. Just kind of sip on the mineral salt throughout the day. And that should keep your EGFR and your kidney strain. Should also prevent the keto flu, which is actually coming from the kidneys quadrupling of its use of sodium. So when you're fasted, sodium is actually more important than when you're non-fasted, because remember, we're putting a lot of fluid into the body, and the fluid that's coming from hydrogen water, depending on whether or not you're using spring water or not, is not going to have sodium in it. It's not going to have minerals in it. So that's why I say we alternate. We take the spring water, put it in the hydrogen water bottle, and drink it from there. So we're not actually just taking tap water or distilled water or bottled water, which doesn't have a lot of minerals in it. So in your case, I would spread just a little pinch in each time that you're drinking water, and it should keep the sodium level to the point where your kidneys continue to methylate.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're super, super welcome. I keep reading Maggie Cook's name as Magic Cook. Maybe it's because I'm fasted and I want to meet a magic cook right now. Sorry, Maggie.
Hi, Gary. How are you?
Hi there.
We are here from New York City, me and my son.
Woo!
Yes.
Are you in Central Park right now?
No, we're in Riverside.
Oh, you're in Riverside.
Yes. I just wanted to thank you, first of all, for all the knowledge that you're trying to spread. And I have two questions. Because I'm in my 40s and I started following you and many things that you're teaching already I'm implementing, and I have 4 children. I wanted to know, when can my children join this kind of fasting experience? My son
Yeah.
is 9, my oldest daughter is 14. So I have a kid, like I have twins, and then
Yeah,
a
so
teenager.
kids do really, really well on 24-hour fasts. And by 24-hour fast, the best way to fast with children is to have them eat their last meal at a certain time one day and have them eat a meal at the same time the following day. So 24-hour fast would capture as much of the sleeping time as possible, so that they don't wake up in the morning hungry and you don't feed them the entire day until they go to bed. So they actually don't spend a wakened day not eating. Kids go very fast into ketosis and they are very fast with cellular autophagy. They don't have the level of cellular senescence that adults have, right? They still get benefits from it. They will tell you towards the end of the day that they're hungry, but you'll notice that they have plenty of energy. They're clear, they're awake, they're cognizant, they're alert. But for kids, I don't think pushing children through 3-day water fasts is as beneficial as an adult. They go fast into ketosis. They go fast into cellular autophagy. They're very quick to respond to cellular senescence. So if you feed them at 6, 7, 8 o'clock on Wednesday night, feed them at 6, 7, or 8 o'clock on Thursday night, and just let them know that that meal is coming. That meal is coming. We're going to drink water. We're going to do some mild activities. Usually when they're distracted, they're not hungry. Kids eat very often out of habit, not out of hunger.
Yes, that's true.
When they're on an iPad, they'll just be eating Cheetos, and then it's not actually trying to satiate them. It's just because they like something to do. They like the stimulus and the taste of a Cheeto, or any other food for that matter. And so,
Now,
a great way to get kids kind of used to fasting is take a 24-hour period and just do bone broths or softer foods like yogurt, and then they'll get through that, and they'll be less afraid when they do a 24-hour fast. And again, super important that for kids, they don't go an entire wakened day, meaning from when they wake up to when they go to bed, without eating. Give them that one meal, just give them a 24-hour period from that meal. So they eat their last meal, then it's a few hours till they go to bed, and then they sleep all night. They're a third of the way through the fast when they wake up in the morning. You just got to get them to dinner, and you can feed them in the afternoon that day too, and you'll get really a lot of benefits for children from that.
Now, because my son has a congenital hypothyroidism, and do I feed him different way? Can I give him also the amino acids, the one from Body Health?
Yes, you can give him the amino acids from Body Health. That'll actually have a positive effect on the thyroid. Hyperthyroid kids have a tendency to have higher metabolisms. They have lean body morphic images. They're usually on the thinner side.
He has a lean body.
There he is. Hey, bud. How are you?
Say hi.
But still pretty safe for them to fast. If they show any signs of being woozy or lightheaded, or they tell you that they feel nauseous or dizzy, then feed them right away. But kids benefit very much from fasting, and they benefit from shorter feeding windows, shorter fasting windows.
One last question.
Okay.
If I don't find the Baja salt, can I use the element, LMNT, that was
You can use LMNT, but LMNT is only going to have 3 of the majors: magnesium, sodium, and potassium. So my preference is that you use a mineral salt. The reason why I want mineral salt is I want all the other things that nobody talks about: manganese, boron, molybdenum, silica, selenium, zinc, all of the extra ones. So LMNT better than pure water. But in a fasted state, you want minerals. We become mineral deficient. So if you can get a hold of Celtic salt or Baja Gold salt, those are your best bet. If not, then LMNT by all means.
And what is the dosage of the Baja for the?
A quarter teaspoon in the morning in water, or just a pinch in each glass of water that you drink throughout the day. About what you can pinch up out of the bag and sprinkle that in water throughout the day.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that so much.
You're super welcome. Thank you for the kind words. There's a delay in the next guest because we're searching for people's names in the order of yesterday. So to do this properly and get everyone that we missed. So thank you guys. If you want to speak with me, please make sure to click the reactions and then raise your hand and my team will see you.
How you doing?
Hey, man.
How you doing? Hey,
How you doing, Paul?
great job. Really appreciate you, and I'm sure all of us on here really appreciate your knowledge and more importantly, I just think you're a great communicator, and that's really the key for me.
Wow, thank you.
Direct. It's like you're talking to me only.
Yeah.
There's others here that think the same way. So just keep doing you. And
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
But,
I'm always trying to distill the complicated down to the simple in a way that people can digest it.
that's the best way to communicate. So I appreciate that very much. A couple quick questions. One is you kind of just answered it as far as kids are concerned, but what about adults? Like how old, maybe is it 60, 70, 80 years old? I mean, when would you suggest somebody to do a water fast age-wise and how old they are?
I think they could do it at any age, right? If they are older than, let's say, 65 years old, start with 24-hour fasting, right? And then if they can get through a 24-hour fast, then you can do a 48-hour fast, but you do the 48-hour fast in stages. The majority of people quit a fast in the first 24 hours, right? If they make it through the first 24 hours, like right now, again, I'm thinking 5 hours, I'm going to be in bed, right? I can do anything for 5 hours.
Sure.
So, the first time, do a 24-hour fast. And 24-hour fasting, there's a difference between doing it all in the same day and knowing that you're going to have a meal that day. So remember, a fast is a 24-hour period, right? So eat dinner at 6 o'clock. Let's say you have, I'm going to make up a 77-year-old female, right? She can eat her last meal at 8 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock at night. She'll go to bed. By the time she wakes up, she's a third of the way through her fast. And she knows she's going to have a meal that night. And so all she has to do is make it to dinner that night. That's a great way to introduce people to fasting. One 24-hour fast, but not a 24-hour period where they're not eating, a 24-hour period, right, where they're eating on both days. And then move to a 48-hour fast. And I would ease into the first 48 hours, bone broth at noon, bone broth at 6 p.m. That's a great way to start. Allow them to still have coffee. Lots of people get severe headaches if you take away caffeine. And then the second day, move to water.
Got it. And then my last question is, my son, very similar to a person that was here just earlier, 15 years old now, 5'9", 140 pounds, athlete guy, wanting to just very thin, but muscular, but wants to gain weight. Creatine, I've heard, obviously we do as much protein as possible, but is there any supplements that you would suggest for a young person like that, kind of following your steps and just to grow as, I wish I would have met you 30 years ago, but my son now can meet you when he's the age I wish I would have met you.
Yes.
So just setting him off on the right trajectory for life, knowing what you have.
I would do, first of all, I would get him used to eating whole foods, right? Because the more you get him used to protein shakes and whey protein shakes and things like that, which are great, and when you're time constrained, the more they will gravitate towards processed foods because they start to think that smoothies and protein bars and pre-workouts and things are normal food. I prefer that they get as much of their energy and caloric intake from whole foods. What are whole foods? Just foods in their natural state, right? If your great grandmother wouldn't recognize it, it's probably not a whole food. So that's a great, rule of thumb. They can also benefit from fasting, but just to your question about weight gain, the reason why most kids do not actually pack on muscle during their prepubescent years is because they are amino acid deficient, not because they're calorie deficient. They're eating enough calories to gain weight, but they're not eating enough amino acids to build muscle. You can do perfect amino servings 3 times a day. So in young kids, they do really well with that. Professional athletes, I have them do a serving before exercise, a serving after exercise, and a serving before bed. And they don't gain weight. It just maintains their muscle mass because they're experiencing a high level of exertion. So kids the same way. Their metabolic rates are higher. Their metabolism is significantly higher. They're in a growth spurts. They've got lots of growth hormone in their bloodstream, especially if they're prepubescent or pubescent. And so during those times, you can do perfect aminos 3 times a day and give them as much whole food as possible. It's so astounding to me how many kids will think that it's purely just calories in, calories out. There's some truth to that. There's not an exact science to that. Yeah. So I've seen kids that go on these weight gain shakes. They don't gain a single pound. You put them on a whole food diet and they actually start to gain weight and fill out and become more muscular. So that would be my suggestion.
And the creatine thought of a young person.
Yes, creatine in young kids, I would do creatine with taurine. There's creatine mixes and powders, never more than 5 milligrams a day. 5 milligrams of creatine per day. Find a creatine supplement in a powdered form that has taurine. And
How
that's
you
great.
spell that?
Taurine, taurine.
Perfect. Appreciate
Awesome.
it. Thank you.
Thank you for the kind words too. I appreciate you. Hey, man.
Hi, Gary.
Kevin.
Great to be here. Quick question. I stopped taking the vitamins from 10X that I've been on for the 3 days, but I'm taking the Sermorelin injection.
Yes.
I did it last night also, so I didn't know whether I should stop it or just continue with it.
You can do the growth hormone peptides. They don't break a fast. They're amino acid based peptides. They're 44 chain. They're what we call light chain amino acids. So they will not break your fast. So especially if it's helping you sleep, you can stay on the cycle of that. Remember, it's usually done 2 hours after a meal, so you won't have had a meal. So you can do that subcutaneous injection prior to bedtime.
And taking perfect amino after the fast every day, it's okay too. It's good for you.
Yes, I tell people that are still exercising to continue with the perfect aminos. If you're not exercising, then day 2 and day 3, let's just be purely water fasted.
And then after the fasting is ended, I could take it every day, 1 scoop, whether I exercise or not.
Yes, you can take every day 1 scoop, whether you exercise or not. If you exercise intensely, then you can take 2 scoops, 1 prior to and 1 after. Remember, it's the equivalent amino acid balance that you would get from 30 grams of protein. All protein goes through the same cycle, right? All protein goes into the liver and becomes amino acids. And those amino acids are what go out and build your muscles. It's also what builds collagen, elastin, and fibrin. It's also what builds our hair, our skin, and our nails. It's a fallacy that we can target direct protein, right? You cannot eat collagen to grow collagen in your skin. I always use the analogy that we don't eat our nails to grow our nails. We don't eat our hair to grow our hair. I don't know why we think we can eat collagen to grow collagen. You can't. Collagen is a protein like whey protein, like steak, like eggs, or like any other plant-based protein. It will be broken down into amino acids, and amino acids will go build that tissue. But if your body needs to build red blood cells, need to build white blood cells, natural killer cells, it will build those from the amino acids, just like it will build your muscles.
Right. Thank you. I love you. You're fantastic. Really.
Oh, I love you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary.
Hey, man. Great to see you.
Yeah, I a huge fan of yours. Got turned on to you by the Diary of the CEO, and have sent that podcast to so many people. And just actually did a LinkedIn post talking about all the health hacks I had last year. Most have been attributed to you. That just jumped through the roof. So thank you first and foremost.
Dude, thank you for saying that, man. This is like chicken soup for my soul, man.
Yeah. I'm going to gift my question that I have to my wife, because we have like a list of like, all these questions. If we ever met you, we'd ask you, but I'm going to gift it to her so she can ask you. So
what an amazing husband you have.
He is. He really is. Thank you. Thank you so much, Gary. I saw your podcast where you had your cameraman dip his 4 fingers in a glass of water to show how the chlorine is absorbed.
He's laughing right now. He remembers that podcast.
Well, it stuck with me because I'm a swimmer, and I thought to myself, what if that happens with your fingers in a glass of water, then what's happening to me when I get in the pool 2 or 3 times a week and swim for 40 minutes? Is that something to be concerned about? I mean, should I just...
If you can't avoid that, here would be my suggestion. Body Health has a supplement called Metal and Chemical-Free Cleanse. It's a sublingual dropper. It has a binding affinity for metals and chemicals. I would do a sublingual dropper of that in the morning and an additional sublingual dropper of that at night, and it will actually clear the chlorines, the bromides. It will actually clear heavy metals as well, but it will clear a lot of the chemical-laden substances that you're getting from chlorinated pool water, from the bromides or the chlorines. So, you know, if you're a swimmer or a competitive swimmer, or you really like to swim, you're swimming in a chlorinated pool, usually the bigger the pool, the lower the parts per million of chlorine. Commercial pools have a tendency to have higher chlorine than non-commercial pools because of their health code requirements. They're more concerned about bacteria than they are about chlorine. But Metal and Chemical-Free Cleanse will wipe out a lot of the downside detriment to that.
Great. That's easy. We've got it. We've got
Yeah.
2 bottles.
Oh, you do? Okay, great. You're already on your way.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. I'll leave you this fun fact. Both Kim and I met doing Ironman back in 2016. We did Ironman.
Awesome.
Yeah, we did Ironman Madison together. I proposed her at the finish line after she beat me by 90 minutes. So
Wow. You didn't meet and then propose at the same race.
no.
Oh, I was like, man, that was fast. That moved quickly. I was like,
Only 11
okay.
minutes later, though.
You're like running beside her and you're like, hey, you want to get married? I love you.
Lots of desperate people
Yeah.
doing those.
Awesome, guys.
Thank
Great
you.
seeing you both. These rule breakers are so awesome. That's like so awesome. Hey there, Ralph. You're muted. Usually the bottom left-hand corner of your screen would be a little microphone picture.
Now, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay. I'll just reiterate all the praise and thank you. So to save us time, but I'm going to say something that's probably different than what everybody else is thinking on this. I love fasting and have done many. I've done 7 days, 10 days and stuff like that. So what I'm wondering is on the longer fast, do you need additional guidance or changes, or is it pretty much the same as ease in, ease
Yes,
out?
up to 7 days, you actually just need the minerals. After 7 days, I would call those medically supervised fasts, right? Because depending on your condition, I would want to see blood work and gene testing on you. I would want to make certain that you don't have clinical deficiencies in other areas like vitamin D3, B12. So I would call any fast beyond 7 days what I would consider to be a medical grade fast, meaning a medically supervised fast. You can do it and it's very safe. And I know people that have done 72-day fasts, and they came out just fine. They lost a ton of weight and they actually fixed the metabolic condition that they were after, but they did it under medical supervision. So if you're going to go from 3 days to 7 days, I mean, and that's a good stretch. I'm all about you doing that and doing it with mineral salts on a regular basis and perfect aminos. If you're going to go beyond 7 days, I would really consider doing it through a medical facility that supervises fasting, because there are some biomarkers that you want to look at to make sure that you're not getting deficient and creating an issue after 7 days.
The other question that goes with that is, I did the gene test. I had 2 yellow, 1 red. I got on the 10X supplements, so I'm taking that. Can those be taken during the fast? And if so, will they break the fast?
I take them on day 1, and days 2 and days 3, I just go pure water.
Okay. If you went longer, would you take them some point down the road?
If I went beyond 7 days, I would consider reintroducing those supplements. But up to 7 days, I would be 6 days fasted without supplements if I was doing a 7-day fast. At a 7-day fast, you want to get some data. You want to get hemoglobin A1C. You want to get some thyroid data. You want to get data on certain nutrient deficiencies. This is why they're called a medically supervised fast. It's not like a doctor has to sit there and stare at you the whole time, but you want a doctor or someone that's familiar with prolonged fasting to look at your blood work and say, we're actually going to put a supplement regimen together for you that's not going to break a fast, but it makes it safe for you to continue for that number of days. Prolon has a 1 day, 5 day, and I believe they also have a 7-day fast.
Okay. I did do the blood work and it looked pretty good with the exception of blood sugar and A1C. So I'm thinking this will be good for me.
This is amazing for blood sugar and hemoglobin A1C. It's well known to increase your insulin sensitivity. I would add cold showers to this. Lin-28A and Lin-28B, which are cold shock proteins released by your liver and in exposure to cold water, can actually further improve your hemoglobin A1C. But yes, getting the inflammation out of the pancreas so you have more sensitive, what's called beta and islet production of insulin, is a great thing. It's amazing what a metabolic reset you can get in just 3 days. So thank you for that.
Thank you for all the free versions of the Superhuman. I'm doing all that.
You're absolutely welcome. I mean, one of the things I always try to do is tell people, look, if you've got the financial wherewithal, by all means, make it convenient. But if you don't, by all means, make it important. And we all can touch the surface of the earth, do grounding, do sunlight, take a cold shower, and just those, and do breath work, right? Those kinds of things are, and I'm about to start a whole series, guys, called lateral shifts, where I'm going to take any food that you like to eat, dietary, snack foods, kids foods, and I'm going to laterally shift it to a more nutrient dense food that will not change the flavor profile, and it will not add a dime to your budget. Huh? It's a ghost. Right about the time. Oh, just went to see a patient. I was like, that looks like a pee break to me. Hi there,
Hi,
Andrea. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. And thank you so much just for everything, you and your entire team. Really,
Oh.
really appreciate it.
You know,
feel-
the team's really a part of the purpose and the passion, you know, so I always remind them that it's not about me, it's about the message. And the message wouldn't be getting out there if it wasn't for my team. So I feel like these compliments that are directed at me are redirected at the team too. I mean, it's a real blessing. If you saw the people sitting behind the camera trying to make this happen, you know.
I
So
bet.
thank you for saying that.
It's truly amazing. Yeah, I have to give you a little bit of a backstory. In 2008, my husband had been diagnosed with cancer and was given less than 10 months to live. So immediately, we ate well, but not clean. I went into crazy mode and wound up becoming, I don't know if you're familiar with Gerson, the Gerson Institute, Gerson therapy, Gerson certified and Hippocrates certified. And we followed the Gerson program at the time. He lived really, really well for 3 years. But if you can imagine, in between, I literally was working all day, had 3 kids, traveling to Boston from New Jersey, back and forth for his treatments. And it was just a crazy, crazy time. Fast forward approximately 6 months, maybe, after he had passed, my body went crazy. I started losing weight to the point where I was afraid to step up on the scale every day. I got down to I stopped looking at the scale when I was 84 pounds. It was horrible. The more I ate, the more it came off. I had to stop working out. I had to change my eating from as clean as it was to trying to throw anything that was high calorie and anything to stop it from happening. Yeah. Right around that same time, I went into spontaneous menopause. From that, I developed livedo reticularis. I don't know. And have not gotten rid of it since then. So I'm wondering what could have been, what causes that, or why is it still there? And then just fast forward a couple more years, my body finally regulated. Then I started gaining weight and couldn't lose it. So I've been out of whack.
It's like the ultimate curse, right? What sort of outward symptoms are you having from reticularis?
Well, I get a severe burning through my body and just like major veins, mostly in my legs, once in a while in my arms, but really not on the torso at all, just my legs.
Yeah. So again, you know, I'm not a physician. I'm not licensed to practice medicine. My inclination would be to do 3 things. I would start taking a very, very good colostrum product like an Amra, A-M-R-A, Amra colostrum. And I would also start taking something called Vinea resveratrol. Vinea resveratrol is a pisceid form of resveratrol. It's a grapeseed extract, but it's a highly potent form of grapeseed extract, which restores the vascular laxity. It's really interesting what happens in reticularis, reticulitis, radicular pain, peripheral neuropathies, is we go after the nerve pathology when really we should be going after the circulation. If you were on the call yesterday, I said, look, I could give anybody on this call right now peripheral neuropathy just by putting a tourniquet on your calf. Right? If I put a tourniquet on your calf in 25 minutes, you'd have peripheral neuropathy in that foot. You'd have nerve-related symptoms. So you'd have tingling, numbness, burning, itching. Eventually, the foot would feel heavy and would go numb. After about an hour to an hour and a half, I could pinch you as hard as I could on the top of that foot and you wouldn't even feel it. There is nothing wrong with the nerves in that foot. You deprive them of circulation. So what happens very often is when we have a major shift in our gut biome, right? So you went from eating, let's call it the standard American diet, to being hypervigilant about what you're eating. Even though what you're eating was really, really, really healthy, it takes a while for the gut biome to shift, right? To begin to populate the flora that gets used to that type of food, right? And then what happens is, as you're going through this shift, you have a lot of metabolic waste products, even though you've shifted from eating, let's call it a dirty diet, for lack of better words, to a clean diet, for lack of better words. During that metabolic shift, you create a lot of metabolic waste products. These metabolic waste products impair circulation. Remember, 70% of the circulation in your body is vasomotor. It is circulation that the heart can't reach. Yes, 70% of your circulatory system, your heart is not responsible for. Nobody on this call has a heart strong enough to get blood to the tip of your toes, to the top of your brain, and to the tip of your fingers. The way that blood circulates is through an activity called vasomotor, which is like a snake swallowing a mouse, right? And that happens in our microvascular system, our capillary system, and our microvascular system. That's the first system to get compromised by inflammation. And you can have a pro-inflammatory response to a low inflammatory diet. And why is that? Because the shift is not, the abrupt shift is not well handled by the gut bacteria. I had a physician on yesterday, if you saw him, Dr. Joffreys. He's an expert in the gut biome. He's actually writing a book on the gut biome. Be a great book for you to read. His gut protocol is probably second to none, in my opinion, him and Dr. Gundry, who I just did a podcast with in London. And so what happens is when we have shift in our gut bacteria, we have a shift in the contents that leave the gut and enter the blood. And so, you know, in our mind, we're like, well, I'm eating super, super clean. But in the gut, we're actually missing flora to convert that super clean food into the contents that is most assimilable. Usually, if you stick with it, the gut biome modifies and you're fine. So probiotics, almond colostrum, and vineyard resveratrol would be where I would start.
Okay. And what was same thing with, at that time, I actually had my DNA done, and was told that I had a 38% ability to detox toxins
Yes.
from my body.
Yep.
So
It's
that,
your tau or MAO genes, one of the
Yep.
APO genes.
so that
Yes.
just added to all of this. And I did heavy metal. I was trying to, I just threw everything at the wall to try to see what I could come up with. Heavy metal testing, I had heavy metal toxicity, 13 heavy metals.
That's
And about
exactly
7 or
what
8 of
happened.
them I was literally off the charts with. And that took about 2 years of a slow detox to get that done. So I will definitely do all these. And
I would also look at Body Health's metal and chemical free cleanse, the same one I
Oh,
recommended to that
yep.
woman earlier. The excellent product to slowly detox heavy metals and toxins. And it only has a binding affinity for heavy metals, not for light metals. So it won't take out the zincs and the magnesium, the B12, B12 is also a metal. It won't take those out of the bloodstream.
Okay. Is it worth, I wanted to have you / your company, whoever it would be able to read my DNA as well? And
No question. You can either
It-
send your DNA in. There's a fee for that. It's a $199 fee to have one of the practitioners look at it, or we can send you a cheek swab overnight in the mail, and you can send that into the lab, and then those results will come back to you for free. Well, I mean, the test is $600. The results come back to you for free, and then for $199, you can get on with one of our geneticists.
Okay, just wasn't sure whether I needed to do the whole thing again, or if I
No,
could
if
just.
you have the 5 genes that we look at, our genetic counselors can read those for you.
Okay, I really appreciate
Awesome.
you. Thank you so
Yeah,
very
I
much.
appreciate you too. Thank you for the kind words. All right, we have 20 minutes left, so please only one question, guys. I'm going to really try to get through all of you. I could sit here and do this all day, but I want to make sure that we try to get through as many people as possible. You're back in the chair.
I am back in the chair.
You were the ghost when we put you up last time.
Yes, I am. So I'm an acupuncturist and I have patients, so I'm in and out with them. But so here's my list of questions. I'm going to ask you the one in the median.
Okay.
Yesterday you were talking to a young lady about SAM-E, and what is an indication of when you should be taking it.
Yes.
So I did the blood work. It comes back that I do need to be taking SAM-E.
Great.
How much do I need to take?
The directions are right on the bottle. So the milligram strength and the dosage is right on the bottle. Follow the directions on the bottle because
Okay.
SAM-E is one of those that can cause you to be manic if you take too much of it. It's a
Okay.
perfect methylated nutrient if you get the percentage right, which is based on your weight and your DNA test. So
Okay.
if one of the geneticists said you needed the SAM-E, remember, try to take it in the mornings, right? Because
Okay.
it has a tendency to elevate your mood, right?
Okay.
It has and you should notice almost immediately when you take SAM-E an improvement in mood, right? You're not going to feel like you won the lottery, but you're like, I'm just kind of generally happier today. I don't feel like I'm in a mood funk, right? I don't feel mood numb at all. I don't have any mood apathy. I'm actually pretty happy and feel really content. That's usually the response that people get from S-adenosylmethionine.
Okay. So the first time that I took it, I cried. I cried. It was
Okay, that's an
literally
indication that you don't need it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one of these things where that was my thing. I'm like, I don't understand how much to take because I go from absolutely nothing to I cry. That's my
Okay, so
background.
that means that you are a slow methylator and you don't need SAM-E.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it also says that I'm supposed to take the 5-MTHF.
Yes, you shouldn't have a problem with 5-MTHF.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
but that shouldn't make me cry either, right?
No, that will not make you cry.
Okay. So if the SAM-E is making me cry, I should not be taking it.
Yeah, if the SAM-E is making you cry, that's the SAM-E. The
Okay.
methylfolate's making you cry, that's your spouse. Just kidding.
Oh, well.
No, it won't make you cry.
Okay. All right. So that was my biggest thing is that whole emotion thing's got to be fixed. So
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
That's
very
what I mean.
much.
SAM-E is immediate.
Okay. So wonderful. Yay. Thank you very much,
Mystery
Barry.
solved. You're all right. Have a great day.
You too.
All right.
Hey, man.
Hey,
Hi, Eric.
big fan.
Oh, you are? Thank you.
I've been following it for about 6 months now. Haven't got the gene test or anything like that. But I am trying to work through some problems in my life, and I figured I'd use this opportunity to ask you a good question. 42-year-old type 1 diabetic since I was 19, and I've been diagnosed about a year ago with gastroparesis. So the only fasting I've done up to this point is pretty much sporadic due to the gastroparesis, where I just kind of have to get caught back up, and stop eating for a little bit. So curious on supplements and any recommendations that you would recommend for a first
Yes.
plan fast.
Gastroparesis, for those people that don't know, is also called paralytic bowel. It's either a short or a prolonged portion of the bowel that actually loses its peristaltic activity. And so it's like getting paralysis in the bowel. Contents have a tendency to pause and putrefy, which can actually lead to diverticulitis and other inflammatory conditions. And so remember, this is related to the peristaltic activity of the gut, the vasomotor activity in the gut. Again, it's like a snake swallowing a mouse, right? You need that muscular activity to move those contents all the way down that tube. One of the common deficiencies in gastroparesis is methylfolate. There's a higher instance of gastroparesis in patients with homozygous MTHFR, meaning red MTHFR. I don't know if you've done the gene test.
Not yet.
You didn't?
Not yet. No, I'd
Okay,
definitely like to soon.
That would be an investment I would make. You're going to do that test once in your life. It's going to tell you exactly what to supplement with. Again, I'm not a physician. I'm not licensed to practice medicine, so I can't really diagnose it. But I will tell you, if you Google MTHFR, and make sure you capitalize it, MTHFR and gastroparesis, you're going to find an increased incidence of paralytic bowel in people with MTHFR. And the reason for that is because of the deficiency in methylfolate. So this peristaltic activity in the gut is it's a very fuel-hungry process, right? And when we deprive the luminal wall of the gut of methylfolate, it doesn't engage in such, the strength of contractions goes down. You'll actually see, if you look at this on ultrasound, that the bowel isn't actually paralyzed. What's happened is you have strong muscular contractions, and you have weaker muscular contractions, then you have very weak muscular contractions. Those contractions are so weak that the contents in the bowel doesn't advance, right? It's like if you slowly made a snake weaker as the mouse moved towards the tail, right? And then it just got stuck. So it's not actually paralyzed. They call it paresis or paralytic bowel, but it's not actually paralyzed. Paralyzed would tell you that the contents will never move past that point. It just dramatically slows down, right? And in that area of very slow peristaltic activity, we call that the paralytic bowel area. And so methylfolate is highly known to increase the peristaltic activity. So is magnesium. There's a supplement called Magnesium Breakthrough, which is 7 different forms of magnesium.
I actually tried that. It did help me quite a bit.
Damn, see?
But I stopped taking it. So,
yeah.
For other reasons, but no, I actually did like that. It all
something as simple as a nutrient deficiency can address something as diseased or pathological as paralytic bowel or gastroparesis. You're just proving my point right there. I love hearing that. Not that you have gastroparesis. I love hearing that. The magnesium works.
Well, it helped me in a lot of different ways. I guess I didn't really notice the motility. It was kind of, I started taking it before I was diagnosed. And honestly, now that I look back at it, I probably got diagnosed shortly after I started taking it or stopped taking it. So
no, there
maybe
you go.
that's
a sign that it's coming from a methylation deficiency. I would, as fast as you can, get that gene test done.
Okay. Yeah, I've been wanting to for a while.
Yeah, I would supplement based on that deficiency. Remember, that test, you only do it once in your lifetime.
Yeah.
And the supplements are not that expensive. You don't even have to get them through me, but the supplements are not that expensive, and it can have a demonstrative change in the function of your bowel. I think that gastric motility is the most overlooked thing in all of bariatric medicine, right? We look at gut flora, we look at gut biome, we look at probiotics, prebiotics, postbiotics, we look at food sensitivities, we look at food allergies, but we don't look at gut motility. And if you change the speed of the conveyor belt, the entire line breaks down. And you have all of these diagnoses that go with, in conjunction with a bowel that is not moving at the right rate. Crohn's disease, diverticulitis, irritable bowel syndrome, all of these different, inflammatory conditions of the bowel. When really, there's no wonder the bowel is inflamed because you've changed the pace of the gut. So I would do that test, brother. All right.
Absolutely. I'm on it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Hi, Heather. Oh, Heather's popping back in. You put her on stage. There you are. Hi, Heather.
Hi.
I can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So I've done the gene testing. I've also done the precision test as well. So I'm waiting for those results. So I do have the double MTHFR and the MTRR. I have been using the 5 whatever in the evening hours. I haven't felt or noticed any of the difference. I do have that slow gut motility that we were just speaking of. That is definitely prominent in my mother and my father, my dad especially. Yep. They're red in both of those, so both parents have it. And I've been doing some blood sugar balancing for my, the way that I'm eating. So I'm down actually 10 pounds in the last 4 weeks, 11 pounds actually, and I'm monitoring my ketones. So
beautiful.
I'm working on that right now as it speaks, but I'm really looking forward to hearing about this precision test as to what is going to come out of that.
And in the meantime, I would really try taking Magnesium Breakthrough at night.
Okay.
I would take the Magnesium Breakthrough. You take a scoop of it in a small amount of water at night, you should notice a near immediate difference. I mean, in 24 to 48 hours after taking. This sounds like classic gut motility issue to me. And and if it is people absorb different forms of magnesium in different ways. There are about 8 different forms, actually more than that. But I mean, there's threonate, there's glycinate, citronate, and so picolinate. So what you want to do is you want to take the 7 forms of magnesium in low dose at one time, and you should notice an immediate change in your bowel function.
So I've been doing like the Greek yogurt or even like sauerkraut to supplement for that gut motility, and I have some raw kefir that I've been doing. So that has been helping actually.
Yes.
Is it magnesium something that I would have to take all the time?
You just take it at night before bed. And that way you'll know that it's coming from the magnesium deficiency, because gut motility is usually related to 2 things: deficiency in methylfolate and deficiency in magnesium. Those are the 2 things that, I mean, those are at the top of the list. You don't go down the list any further until you look at those 2 things first, right?
Right.
So I would really, for the price and the risk, it's really worth. It's by BioOptimizers, and it's called Magnesium Breakthrough. I would try that for, at night. It also helps you sleep. By the way, it's a nice other benefit from it. You will not wake up groggy. It's not triglyceridic. It's a metabolite. Your body recognizes it. It can eliminate it as waste. So it's one of my favorite supplements for people that have intestinal motility issues.
Yeah. I took that precision test probably 2 weeks into eating this way. And then I just took a blood test to like 3 weeks in, and my B12 is super high, like over 2,000, and my cholesterol LDL are over 300.
That's a sign that you're getting a supplemental form of B12 that your body's not metabolizing. Remember, B12 is measured in the serum of the blood, not intracellularly, unless you did something called a cellular nutrition assay, which is not likely. So if you did a blood test, what it's doing is it's measuring the B12 in the serum of the blood. Why does B12 rise in the serum of the blood? Because the cell is not metabolizing it. It's just like if you filled your gas tank with gas and you never started your engine, the gas tank would never drain down, right? So very often, high levels of B12 in the blood are a sign of B12 deficiency in the cell because you're not using the right form of B12. Make sure that anything else that you're taking besides the supplements that we're giving you have the form of B12 called methylcobalamin, right? Adenosine and hydroxy and methylcobalamin. Make sure that you're not taking inadvertently a supplement or a protein powder or a food or a drink that is supplemented with cyanocobalamin. Then the second thing I would say is very often when we're B complex deficient, we become B12 deficient because we need the B complexes to draw the B12 into the cell. So my first order of business would be try the Magnesium Breakthrough, the 7 forms of magnesium. And then when you get the precision genetic test, that's going to go a lot deeper, and it's going to be hyper-targeted supplementation.
Okay. So I do have all of the 10X supplements, and I've actually been doing that since April.
Great. I would add the Magnesium Breakthrough and then wait to see what happens when you get the precision supplements back.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay. I'm going to try to get to one last question before we wrap up. So make it a really good one. Erica, you are the final contestant on The Question Is Right.
Yay.
Better be a good one. Lots of pressure here, Erica. Everyone in the waiting room is waiting to hear this question.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
I'm just purposely trying to put more pressure on you. No, go ahead.
So I wanted to ask you, for somebody that has a mast cell disorder, it's really hard for me because I react to so many things and I'm not sure, what I'm going to react to, but it's like food, supplements, medications, stress, hormones, like pretty much everything. So at this point, I mean, I've been following you for a little while now, and you've kind of changed our lives, our family's life, because we thought we were eating, pretty healthy. And then after eliminating seed oils and enriched and fortified things, that's made a huge difference. But I still am having some pretty awful reactions and inflammation and some violent mast cell attacks. And this is kind of something I'm doing, hoping that it will help bring me to a state of remission, because I've had that throughout my life multiple times. Not sure why I've had it in those times, but
So mast cell, for those people that don't know, is mast cell syndrome. Mast cell is like a cell that creates inflammation, releases histamines. And so mast cell syndrome is a histamine response, and it can show up in the skin. It can show up in the body. It can actually show up in the throat. It can even be life-threatening. It can actually, you can have, in rare cases, anaphylaxis, which is a throat closure. And mainly these people are put on repeated steroids, high doses of steroids and corticosteroids, which I'm not a huge fan of. So 3 things I would really encourage you to do.
okay.
And I would do them in this stage. Number 1, I would get a micellized or nanoparticulate turmeric, nanoparticle turmeric. 10X has one. And the reason why you want nanoparticles of turmeric are, whenever you have inflammation anywhere in the body, you have to think about, how am I going to get contents into the area of inflammation? Because when something is inflamed, it becomes its own worst enemy. You can't get anti-inflammatories in, and you can't get the inflammation, the inflammatory factors out, right? Because you have a restricted area of blood flow. So it kind of walls itself off. So this is when you need to change the molecular size of what you're supplementing with. Turmeric and curcumin are great for 90% of the population. If you have mast cell syndrome, it's useless. Because in mast cell syndrome, you have a hypersensitivity and you have high levels of inflammation. The second thing that I would do is I would check your homocysteine and something called CRP, C-reactive protein. Really important to bring down your other baseline markers of inflammation. So you can bring homocysteine down if you have high homocysteine by taking something called trimethylglycine, TMG. And you can bring C-reactive protein, CRP. You can bring that down by taking something called Sun Foods Brain Fuel, which is a silica clay. It is a binder. The last thing that I would really recommend is I would actually look at taking a binder on a daily basis. A binder is something like silica clay, activated charcoal, because where do all histamine responses come from? All histamine responses start in the gut. They spill over into the bloodstream. They spill over into the bloodstream, then the liver raises its C-reactive protein, then the liver panics and uses the skin as a secondary route of waste elimination, and then bang, you have a rash, right? Like when they say you have a systemic rash, it usually starts by something that's in the gut, right? If you have a contact dermatitis, it's in the area that you've made contact, right? You got a sunburn, you can actually see it from the, farmer's tan down, right? So you know that that reaction came from the sun. If it's systemic, very often it's coming from the liver using the skin as a secondary route of waste elimination. So those would be the stages that I would go through in that order. Start with micellized turmeric and curcumin. Do a test for homocysteine and C-reactive protein. Add Sun Foods Brain Fuel that has the silica clay in it. And then look at taking a good binder. Symbiotica makes a good one. There's a good binder that's made by Thorne, by Pure Encapsulations. And I would look at either an activated charcoal binder, which you cannot have a histamine reaction to, or a silica clay binder, which you cannot have a histamine reaction to. Because I want to start to sop up histamines in the gut. I want to absorb the histamines before they get into the bloodstream, before they panic the liver, before they show up as a rash, and before they start tissue histamine mast cell activation.
Okay. Do you offer those tests in your testing?
Yes, we can do a blood test for homocysteine and C-reactive protein on our regular female panel. So you can just get our regular female panel.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, awesome. All right, we're going to get to one last question because we don't want to forget about Richard from yesterday. So surprise, you get some extra Gary time.
Oh,
so
wow.
Let's bring Richard up there. Cash flow. Oh, you're also a 10Xer.
Well, starting, I guess. You can hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, great. Boy, thank you so much, Gary. You are You're the guy that I follow more than anybody. You're just amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, amazing. And I like Dana, so I love that you sent out that, or he let you send out that video months ago. That's helped a lot of people.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I think my biggest problem has been, well, I don't know whether to do, I'm 64, I'm in really good shape up until like COVID. And I just quit working out. I thought, fuck it, if we're going to die, what's the point? But you know, I've turned it around. I've been off sugar a few weeks now and feel a little
Are you
bit.
on your second day of the fast now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Absolutely. And, you know, for some reason, my blood pressure is raised a little bit, but not today. It's actually gone down like to 108 in 73, which is phenomenal.
That's almost like hyposystolic. That's great.
Yeah, it's good. My blood sugar has gone down. I just hit that mark, that bullshit mark of, you know, on the A1C 5.7 or something. I know I got to turn it around. Both my parents are diabetic, but that doesn't mean I need to be one. But the thing that bothers me the most has been the fogged in. I've been fogged in for months, and I wake up, I'm like Dana, man, I cannot even tie my shoes to walk the dog in the morning. I got to do it barefoot. Massive pain in the morning. I don't know why. Fogged in until I wake up around 5 p.m. and then I'm wide awake until I pass out at midnight or whatever. And yeah, the fogged in, and then the last thing, sorry, I'm going to do your test for sure. I want to know whether to do the blood work or the genetic test first.
I would start with the genetic test for sure. Can I ask you a personal question, if you don't mind saying it on the Zoom? But
yeah, I do have
vaccinated or boosted?
Oh, hell no. No way. No way, bro. No. No. I'm probably one of the most tested guys in LA, but I just have zero confidence in the medical establishment or this industry they got going on.
Yeah, so I'll leave that one alone. But so that's good news. So I would definitely do the gene test, because the gene test is going to be the first thing to clearing out brain fog. The other thing I would really think about doing is just order the Sun Foods brain fuel. It's not expensive. It's a powder form. And I want you to take 1 teaspoon 4 times a day.
Hold on. Brain food?
Sun Foods brain fuel.
Oh, fuel.
It's a silica clay, a bioaloe. It's a very, very, very good neurotropic.
You know the company. How much?
The food is the company is called Sun Foods. It's not my product. It's just a product I recommend to people. I shout out a lot of my competition.
I know it. How much?
Take 1 teaspoon 4 times a day. It takes like a tea. So you take a teaspoon, you put it in water, stir it up, and just whack it back. Do it 4 times a day for a week. At the end of that week, you should feel like you took a limitless pill. Wow. Literally, you should feel like you're looking through a 4K screen and all of that brain fog is lifted. If not, when the testing results come in from the gene test, we'll target the deficiency.
Okay, last thing. The thing that's bothering me the most, you know, is the kind of numbness, neuropathy on the feet, yet it's kind of gone up until like mid-calf.
Mm-hmm. That's a circulation issue, not a nerve issue.
I know it is.
Right? So true sciatica would give you tingling and numbness in a very specific pattern below the knee, usually radiating down into to the foot, and usually have some numbness in your butt. That doesn't sound like sciatica to me.
No, I had a nerve test. The nerves were fine.
Yeah, so nerve conduction study. So that's a classic one for Vinia resveratrol.
Okay.
VINIA resveratrol to restore vascular laxity and circulation.
Yeah. Thank you.
Love you, brother. Guys, I am so excited again. My team and I see all of you with your hands raised, and we promise we're going to get to you guys tomorrow during our session. If you only have a few more hours until we sleep, so we're all in this together. So remember, you just got to make it to bedtime tonight. You know, we had 5 hours when I started this. You only have 4 hours now if you go to bed at 9 o'clock. You got 5 hours if you go to bed at 10 o'clock. So I really want you to think about it like I described that alcoholic that had been sober for 30 years. He said, I don't know if I'm going to ever drink again, but I know I'm not going to drink for one more day. So just say, I don't know if I'm going to eat tonight, but I'm not going to eat for one more hour. Right. And just make it to the next hour, make it to the next hour, make it to the next hour. And pretty soon you'll be in bed. You'll wake up tomorrow and you are 2/3 of the way there. And so, guys, we're doing ourselves a lot of good. I really appreciate all the kind words in the comments. When I say that's chicken soup for my soul, it really is. My team feels the same way. You know, we shrink our problems by growing our purpose. And our purpose is to get this information out to the masses. You could help me by getting the word out about these challenges, encouraging people to become VIP patients and encouraging people to download these free challenges and just do them themselves. Like first be the example and the inspiration, and then your inspiration will be their transformation. And that's the way that we make a ripple effect in the world. That's why I give so much of my time to challenges like this, because I am not stupid enough to think that I can do this on my own, but I am smart enough to know that I can do it with all of you. And all of those life-changing stories that we hear on here are testimonies that are going to go out in the world, and it's going to change another life. And that's what I'm after. So God bless you guys. I'll be back with you guys tomorrow, 3 o'clock. Stay strong. Make it to bed tonight. Don't eat for one more hour. God bless you guys.